came to the realization of how other areas were alienated by the successive regimes. That where you have to vote a particular pattern in order to get benefits out of it. You remember, even 2 days ago, and I'm glad that my colleague here has said this House is not an appendage or a stooge of State House. Honorable Speaker, we listened to one William Samoei Ruto over the weekend dictating terms to this House. And you know, when we were in school, for us who were privileged to undertake executive education, we were told about separation of powers, how Parliament is separate from the judiciary and is also separate from the executive, and that no house or no arm of government can dictate to the other on how it conducts its business. I was perplexed beyond recognition that William Samoei Ruto could stand up to dictate to this House how they will handle the finance bill, Honorable Speaker. What happened to the independence of these institutions? What happened to the matter of argumentation? Because you have to argue. A president, so he calls himself, cannot dictate to this House how we conduct our businesses. And if that was, to threaten certain members of this House to vote a particular pattern, then I'm very afraid that they are just starting. You never know how much they would want to push in the next few years. And if we are not afraid, Honorable Speaker, don't be shocked to be confronted by a bill that will be extending the life of a president in this country. It has happened to our neighboring country. It can happen now. So what the executive is trying to do is to see how much they can push so that they can now transact those clandestine businesses in this republic, Honorable Speaker. Now, the drafters of our NGCDF, fully recognizing that there are issues that needed to be addressed in schools, with our security, with our sporting culture, and many others, came up with this NGCDF. And one thing that I really appreciate them for is how transparent issues of CDF are, Honorable Speaker. This is one money that if you have to reallocate, then you have to seek permission. Unlike devolution, where, it is at the disposal of a governor and his cabinet to choose as and where money goes without seeking any approval from anybody, Honorable Speaker. Our money is directly plugged to projects. And how I wish that even those who were carrying out the devolution as an act of Parliament and infusing it within the Constitution borrowed from this system that money must be plugged into a project. That is how issues of corruption are nipped at the bud, Honorable Speaker. And, you move around this country, the only good news only comes from CDF. Whereas billions are usually expended to counties, there is nothing to write home about them, Honorable Speaker. Even when there is no water, there is no health care, there is no roads, no one is asking the governor, they are still coming to us as members of Parliament to answer to these questions, Honorable Speaker. So I wish that the drafters took that model emanating from the NGCDF in order to undertake all the transactions, Honorable Speaker. Now, this inordinate delay that has been spoken by my colleagues here is something that needs to be properly checked, Honorable Speaker. We just disbursed some few monies going towards bursaries. But then what happens to all the projects that we hitherto earmarked for upgrading of classrooms or building new classrooms and doing sporting events and many other things, Honorable Speaker? And the money that we got to some constituencies is not even enough to do bursaries, Honorable Speaker. And we are coming to the end of this financial year. And this House is keeping quiet. Yet, this is the same House that passes budgets for all other departments within government, Honorable Speaker. We haven't noted any inordinate delay with the executive arm of government. Just the other day, you saw the Chief Justice Parliament, we have to beg.
You have it. continue.
Thank you. I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. So when the judiciary gets its full monies, the executive gets what it needs inside its budget, and all those monies come from appropriation from this House, Honorable Speaker. And yet, when it comes to our matters, then we are told that, you know, Treasury has not released your exchequer. And then you'll be told that the Speaker and the clerk will be meeting with the Treasury Cabinet Secretary to talk about our monies, Honorable Speaker. We have to beg, literally, living on our knees, talking to the executive that has no due respect to the members of this House and what it ought to be doing, Honorable Speaker. These are matters that we must confront. These are matters that we have to be very much alive to. We are not going to allow the judiciary, you know, buying and driving state-of-the-art vehicles and showcasing them in public functions, and then giving a swipe at the members of parliament without due regard to the participatory role that we play in the welfare of this country, Honorable Speaker. So I want to challenge us that this House has teeth that it has refused to put into use. Today, we tabled the budget, the appropriations, budget and appropriations bill. Today, we tabled the public finance bill. The executive expects that you will shepherd the entire process without any hitches. Yet, there is no CDF. How I wish that we can stand our ground the way we did it in Mombasa and say, no budget, no CDF, and no CDF, no budget. And we say, no public finance bill. Of course, I will oppose that finance bill with all my might, but let us come to the realization that this House has what it takes to do what is necessary so that we champion the interest of the people that we represent out there. With those many remarks, I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Jared Okello. The Honorable Dr. Eve Obara, the MP for Kapondo Kasipul.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I too stand to support the report. Mr. Speaker, I support the sentiments of my colleagues on the role, the important role that CDF has played in our communities. Mr. Speaker, as has been mentioned by almost all the speakers who have spoken this afternoon, is that there is no ward that you would visit in this country, in all the 290 constituencies, that you would not see a project of CDF. Mr. Speaker, the manner in which the fund is managed is clear, structured, and well understood. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, let me appreciate those of us who came ahead of us and made sure that this fund was in place for equity. So today, Mr. Speaker, each region can plan and develop its region in line with their greatest priority need. Mr. Speaker, if you talk about equity, if you talk about fairness, the distribution of resources in this country, then you look at the CDF. I therefore am surprised, Mr. Speaker, that any government would delay the release of these funds. Because I'm sure if these funds were already released and activities going on around the constituencies, there would be less noise about the suffering of the citizens of this country. Bursaries have been given out, but the money was not sufficient for everybody, or it was not enough to give to everybody. But if it was given then, the burden to the parents would have been lessened. And this, I hope our leadership can see this and release this money before the end of this financial year. Mr. Speaker, we have projects that we had started. We had committed in our plans to complete them within the year. And as it is going to roll over to the next financial year and therefore affect all our plans. Mr. Speaker, I call upon the government and the leadership of this House to get out, see the minister, impress upon him the need for this money to be released. Mr. Speaker, the report has come out, and we have seen that there is marked improvement on the operations of the CDF. But at the same time, we have also seen that there are certain gaps in the manner in which it is being managed in certain areas. Mr. Speaker, I put this squarely at the footstep of some of the rogue fund managers that have been posted to some constituencies. And I call upon the board, the CDF board, to rein upon these officers and remove them from the field. Discipline them or dismiss them, because I'm sure, I being one, we have reported on this matter to the board of the CDF. Yes, I want to say that in my area, action has been taken, but I believe that in other areas, this still is the problem. The board CEO, please take note, even as we churn out these reports. Please take note and weed out these corrupt officers from our midst in the constituencies. Mr. Speaker, I want to also note that different countries have come to Kenya to benchmark on this model. And that tells you something about even what is going out there about the model, our CDF model. And therefore, when we see this, and we see how people talk about it out there, the pride that they have that there's a Kenyan country that has actually managed to decentralize funds and manage it so that there's equity within this country. I am still baffled and surprised that this money is still being held. I again appeal and call upon the government to release the money, even as we are going through a very difficult time within the society now about the finance bill. These are some of the things that if they were done, then I think there would have been a little bit consideration on certain aspects of the bill. But as we speak now, Mr. Speaker, my constituents, I have told me, please we do not support the bill in the manner in which it is presented. I will therefore go with the sentiments of my constituents and say, I will therefore go with the sentiments of my constituents and say no. Thank you. Thank you very much. I support the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ivo Bara. When the speaker recognized you, some thought you were going to speak about GAF. They don't understand, women leaders of your caliber are elected to lead constituencies. Very great contributions. Thank you very much. The Honorable Andrew Okwome Adepo, the MP for California, you want to...
Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this item of presentation that came from the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, CDF is at the heart of Kenyans. Perhaps of all the funds we know of, CDF is the best known all over. Not just because it is called Constituency Development Fund, but it's because of what it does. Everything that CDF does is at the heart of every Kenyan. If you talk of schools, CDF is leading. And what CDF does is graciously helping today and the future Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, when we talk of CDF, I wish the government could be with us together in the thought, because we are helping the government as well. We are helping the Kenyans as well. If you are to properly report what CDF has done, really, you would think it is the institution that the government should emphasize on in development. I do agree that some of the mistakes occurred. I don't know whether they are professional mistakes or whether they are mistakes of the kind which is very predominant in the Kenyan government service. That's the normal corruption we know of. Yes, one may say this and that are corruption. If they are, then maybe appropriate action can be taken. But we should not just blind ourselves and see nothing but CDF without considering that the whole government system, be it national government or county, corruption is almost living with every person that's at the top there going down. So this is not just an issue that can be treated by saying it is this particular case. I wish there was a possibility that the government can overhaul its idea on the managerial system being used so that a method can be found that would get us out of this menace of corruption, right from the top in national government to the lowest level possible, and a similar thing be done at the county level. That's when we can say, when we get a positive result, that's when we can say, yes, we have done some work. But just to isolate CDF and think of it alone without considering others, and probably punish those in CDF alone without punishing any other person in any other arm of government, will be discriminatory, and I would say would be wrong. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me just get you back to what I was saying, what I started with, which is the work and contribution CDF or NGCDF has done to this country. I started by talking of schools, the buildings, classrooms. Honestly, I think I would say without fearing that many, many schools have been built because of CDF. I remember last year or the year before last, the government was building some classrooms to accommodate, I don't know whether it was JSS, but then if you look at the quality of work they did, I'm now referring to my own constituency, the quality of work they did compared to mine, we are miles apart. What they did is completely junior to what I did with the CDF. I can therefore stand very strongly up and say that with the CDF, I did, with the same amount, I did a lot more than what the government did with the amount they used during the late Professor Magoha's time. If they have a project like that one for future, if they want to get the result equal to the funds they spend, I would urge that they use CDF. They will say they have scored because they will have achieved their objective. Yes, I know we have many things that need to be done, like GISS as almost. They don't have laboratories in many schools. They don't have classrooms in many schools. They are still lacking in building in several ways. If the national government wanted this to be built, they should use CDF, NGCDF, and give that money to NGCDF to do the work for them. They will then have an opportunity to see what NGCDF can do. And then even on the security side, because our mandate covers security and education, on the security side, we have built a number of classrooms for the administration, the former provincial administration. We have built a number of offices for them, which I think is a noble thing. It is done. But then come the year 22, 23, Mr. Speaker, I am a very disappointed MP, and I know I'm disappointed together with my colleagues, because the financial year is ending. Today is 6th. It is ending in, well, I would say 24 days' time. And yet, the government has been adamant. We make noise, nobody listens. They don't want to give us the remaining part of the money. I'm almost certain, because I heard the leader of majority saying, we are going to get some answer to the question that was asked by one of us. I know they probably will say, yeah, you are going to get it within such and such a time. But maybe we are now used. The promises are always there. We get them, but the action doesn't follow. We are immune to what they say, because they say it and nothing is done. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the members of parliament should now come up strongly and say with one strong voice that we cannot go ahead with any bill until this money is given. Because it's the money that helps our people. If we don't get it, Mr. Speaker, even your position as a member of parliament is in the limbo. It is under threat. You cannot be sure that wananchi will feel you did any work for them. Because the major work we do for the people directly is what we do with the CDF. That's why it is important. CDF is given to us so that we can be productive in line with our promises to those who elected us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me the opportunity. I support.
Thank you, Honorable Andrew Ukome. Is there any more? I'm not seeing any more. Is Honorable Gertrude Mbeyu in the house? It's a request by Honorable Gertrude Mbeyu. She must have stepped out. There being no further interest or request to speak to the motion, I now call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is a fundamental debate that directly involves us as members of Parliament. I am delighted because members have ventilated and put on record some of the sentiments which I do not doubt enrich the debate. The discussion we have held on this House will help guide those involved with NGCDF to, 1, properly utilize the fund's budget, 2, ensure transparency in the management of the NGCDF. 3, improve how audits are conducted. 4, standardization of the national government constituency development construction projects. And finally, improve the capacity of staff at the constituency development offices. I thank honorable members for unanimously supporting this report, and I beg that this House adopts the report of the Decentralized Funds Account Committee on the consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for the National Government Constituency Development Fund for 26 constituencies in the counties of Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, Taita Taveta, Lamu, and Tana River for the financial years 2013-2014, 2014-2015, 2015-2016, laid on the table of this House on Tuesday, 25th April 2023. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mover.
No seconding.
Is Honorable Andrew Okwome on a point of order? You went away from your mic while requesting to to speak.
Yeah,
Please
Mr.
proceed.
Speaker, sorry. Mr. Speaker, sir, with reference to Standing Order 5.3, I wish to request that the question on this motion be deferred.
Which is the standing order provision quoted by Honorable Komu? Yeah, 53. Yeah, Honorable Andrew Okwome, in line with standing order provisions number 53 of the House, I will defer the putting of the question on the motion to the next time it is scheduled in the order paper by the House Business Committee. Next order.
Order number 16, motion, ratification of the amended Nairobi Convention and the Protocol for the Protection of Marine and Coastal Environment of the Western Indian Ocean from land-based sources and activities.
Mover. Who should be the mover of that motion? The chair, Environment, Forestry and Mining, is not in the House. The Honorable Dorothy Kiara, what is the matter? Why isn't the mover in the House? We cannot have business of committees scheduled and duly notified on the order paper, and then we have movers grounding business of the House. Honorable Dorothy Kiaria, what is the issue? I see you on a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, I stand to be guided. I think, Honorable Speaker, there is no quorum in the House.
Wow. Could you ring the bell for the time provided for in the standing order?
murder of world champion athlete Agnes Tirop in a suspected case of domestic violence has sent shockwaves around. The murder of world champion athlete Agnes Tirop in a suspected case of domestic violence has sent shockwaves around my homeland, Kenya.
Girls like Agnes get killed every single day. It happens in every single village.
Since the COVID lockdown, there has been a staggering increase in reports of violence against women and children.
You are rapists.
You're looking at people who have been slashed, people who have been stabbed, people who have been beaten black and blue. They're running for their lives.
I want to find out just how deep the problem lies. And what can be done to remove this poison from our society.
Hiyo panga ilikuwa ya kichwa. Mtoto akaidukia akagonga na kichwa yake, mtoto na akakufa hapo hapo.
Kenyans pride themselves on their family values. But recently, another side to the story has come to light.
I've always been shaken by cases of sexual and gender-based violence. And over the years, I've seen it become increasingly extreme. How do you move from loving and starting a family with somebody to attacking them or even killing them?
As a former crime reporter, I've covered so many murders, I've almost become immune to scenes of violence. But most of the victims I witnessed were young. Kenya, the home of tea production, the most popular drink in the world after water, a global industry worth